Hello and welcome to True Audio Files. Today I am going to be talking about the Black Sabbath album. So their first album that was released, I don't remember, it was like 69 or 1970, something like that. But mainly talking about it, as most of you probably that are watching this know already, that because Rhino released a high fidelity version of it, cut by Kevin Gray from the original Warner master tapes, which means they were the ones that were made for the US. So they had a different track listing, as well as obviously I'm guessing there may be safety copies, or basically a copy of the tracks from UK. And I am going to be comparing it to what I believe is it's, well, you probably might be able to see it on here, but it's labeled as a third pressing of the UK version. It could be earlier than that one, but regardless, it is a early UK pressing, and I'm taking it. I have it in this because the drawback to this one, and the reason why I got it for such a quote-unquote steal, is because the record jacket was water damaged pretty severely, but the record itself was in pristine condition. So it's got the ever popular and ever desirable Vertigo, label, and then this is the second side. And so I got that version, and I'll show you the cover as you'll be able to see. It's hard to tell from this one, but this side you can see there's some water damage there, and got the original inner sleeve, which is cool, but then as you can see, a lot of water damage. Interesting story on this one as well. When I purchased it, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I was told quite a funny story that supposedly it and the other two UK versions of I got Paranoid and Volume 4 were supposedly owned by a priest. So kind of funny story about that. So anyway, so that is the one that I am going to be comparing to the Rhino High Fidelity. And just to show you the High Fidelity, the inner sleeve, and as everybody's probably already shown, I've got like number 1100 and something. So it's a lower press run of the 5,000 that were pressed. Sounded great in terms of the pressing quality, so it was very quiet, very good quality pressing, as they usually are. So I basically listened to the first track, Black Sabbath, because there wasn't, the second side is different. I figured the first side is probably pretty similar, and I listened to different locations on the track too, because it starts off kind of slow and prodding, and then it eventually builds up and has a pretty heavy piece at the end. So I listened to all those different sections of the song to really get a good feel for how both of these sounded. So how I usually do these, and how I did it this time around, is I listened to the new reissue all the way through, and then tried to determine what song would probably be the best one to do A-B comparisons on. And I A-B those back and forth quite a bit. And as mentioned, I did the first song, Black Sabbath. So one thing I noticed right off the bat on the Rhino is kind of an interesting thing, and I wasn't sure if it was just this copy or if the other ones did it as well in terms of the other releases of it. But it was kind of weird. The lightning at the beginning, thunder and lightning and rainstorm that starts off the track in the beginning was slightly off to the right, which I thought was kind of odd, and then the bell was definitely far off to the right and up front a little bit more. And it's kind of interesting, but I basically could feel the thunder that was coming, which was very cool. And overall thought it sounded very good in terms of the overall clarity. The had a pretty good wide sound stage, and the cymbals sounded good. They were probably, for those that are sensitive to bright, I would say that it is a hair on the bright side. So if you're sensitive to brightness, that may be something that may not appeal to you. But definitely had a good deep low end and then super high end. Overall, it was relatively neutral sounding, though, still, even though probably, like I said, probably could say that it's a little bit on the bright side. So, but overall, I thought it sounded great. There was great clarity overall, which, I'm not sure if that's because of the, high end that was there. But anyways, I thought overall, he had a good placement on all the instruments. You could really tell where all of them were, and just a great overall sound quality, good natural sounding voice. Then I put on the UK version, and the one thing I noticed right off the bat was, talking about that lightning, thunder, I should say, and rainstorm, it was definitely more centered on the record, which I'm not sure if that really matters a whole lot, but still had the very good wide dispersion of where the bell was. Definitely can tell on the cymbals and on the bell that there wasn't quite as much high end and maybe not quite as deep a bass end, but still pretty good bass, still pretty good treble. Just didn't sound like it had quite as high and quite as low, and maybe a tiny bit less, but not much less. One thing that did stand out to me, though, that I noticed right away on the guitar, though, was it just seemed like the guitar had more edge. Maybe there was a little bit more mid-range in the guitar area. I'm not sure what it was. Couldn't really put my finger on it, but that was one thing that I just noticed right away when the distorted guitar kicked in. It just seemed like it had more of an edge, more of a oomph to it. That it seemed like the Rhino one was a little bit lacking on that one. So, but still had pretty similar sound stage, and you could really place all the instruments. The drums were spread across the entire sound stage, which is kind of cool, and you could place where every one of those individual drums were and the cymbals were. Definitely not quite as, like I said, as high of a high on the cymbals, which probably to me made them sound a little tiny bit more natural to me, maybe, but it wasn't much of a difference. So so let that play for a little while, and then near the end where it actually starts to pick up and you've got everything going at once. You've got the bass, the guitar, the drums, the vocals, all that stuff going at the same time. The one thing that I did notice was it seemed maybe a little bit clearer to me on the Rhino High Fidelity, and I think that might be just to where I was alluding to before, that there's more high end, so maybe that high end maybe just gave that, for lack of a better term, illusion of a clearer sound, because the UK one definitely was very clear. It's just I think the extra high end gave that extra bit of clarity to the track when everything was going at once. So, both sounded phenomenal. It's really hard to say which one I liked better, because I think they both sounded very good. They both have their strengths. So, I guess if you're really into rock and metal, and the guitars are a super important element to those, I think that the guitar definitely, I felt, sounded better on the UK one. I thought the cymbals maybe sounded a little bit better on the UK one, but when everything was going all at the same time, I thought there was a better clarity to everything going at the same time. So more somewhat in the room feel to it than on the Rhino than on the UK, but that you get that with the addition of more treble too. So if you're not, again, a big person for treble, that may not be something that you're into. And again, the UKs also are something that have a different track. I think it was a cover track that they did on it as well, and they replaced it on the US version on the second side. So you've got Evil Woman and Don't Play Your Games With Me were on there on the second side of the UK version, where you basically had A Wicked World and a Bit of Finger is basic, or I guess Bit of Finger, Sleeping Village, and Warning were all part of that. So anyway, that's kind of my take. I would say the Rhino High Fidelity is definitely a spectacular sounding one, and I have not compared it to any of the recent reissues or an original US, because I just frankly don't have them. I kind of got that UK Black Sabbath kind of early on, and everyone had been and on all the forums and all that had said that was the best sounding one to get, that you shouldn't get the US one, so I never did. So I can't honestly say what it sounds like in comparison to the US ones, except for this Rhino. And they definitely have their strengths and weaknesses on both of them. So I would say if you're kind of wanting that more of that edge sound on the guitar and maybe in my opinion, maybe a little bit more natural sounding cymbal, you go with the UK. If you want to kind of overall slight bit better clarity overall, especially when everything's happening all at the same time, maybe the edge would be, I shouldn't say maybe the edge, in my opinion, is the Rhino. So that's kind of my take on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, and have you listened to the new Rhino and compared it to some like the UK's and some of the other US ones. I've heard definitely that some of the more recent Rhino, or not necessarily Rhino, but recent Warner reissues of the US reissues have not sounded as anywhere near as good as either of these two copies. So I'm glad I didn't invest that money. So anyway, that's kind of my take on Black Sabbath and the Rhino High Fidelity. Right now you're probably going to be able to get either one, the UK or the Rhino, probably for similar prices, because I think I saw that the Rhino's going for probably about $120-ish right now, since you can't buy it anymore. So I guess you just have to kind of pick your poison, which ones you like, what you like best about what I talked about, whether it's the cymbals and guitar sound on the UK or kind of the overall slight edge of clarity because of the more upper high end and a little bit deeper bass, on the Rhino. So pick which one you like the best and go with that if you don't already have it. So, if you have the UK, the only reason why I could see that you may want to grab this Rhino High Fidelity is because of, the different track listing. And so you'll gain that by getting the Rhino. And it's probably one of the better sounding versions of it out there. So I've heard definitely from others that, a first US pressing is very comparable. So different people have different thoughts, different people have different systems. It's all a matter of opinion here, but that's kind of my take. I've tried to give you a little bit of a explanation as to what I like better about both of them, or what one gives you that the other one doesn't, so you can kind of make your own choices there. So, but again, love to hear your thoughts. If you would like to leave them in the comment section on this video. If you liked the video, please hit that like button. I want to thank you for subscribing if you do subscribe. If not, please do so. I love new subscribers. Hit that alert bell to let you know when new videos come out. And that's everything I've got for this one. So thank you very much. You have yourself a good rest of the day and a good rest of your week. Thanks.